They sent the invitation on a Tuesday, and the message uninviting me arrived not long after. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, embossed with gold filigree, the kind you'd expect for a senator's fundraiser or an Ivy League wedding. The front read, "The Bristow Family Reunion, August 15th, 7 p.m., the Fairmont Hotel, San Francisco." I didn't open it. No need. That hotel name was all too familiar. It sat on the client list on my tablet, under Elite Partners, Platinum Tier. That was my digital signature on the contract confirming the booking. Moments later, my phone buzzed. A message from my cousin Olivia. Always the unofficial family coordinator, the one who carried bad news wrapped in politeness. "Hey Lila, just so you know, the Fairmont is fully booked this year. We have a ton of guests flying in and it's going to be a formal affair. Hope that works for you." That emoji. The silent badge of exclusion. Not an outright rejection, just a polite erasure. I'd seen this before. Birthday invites that never arrived. Group chats that silently removed my name during career announcements. They never said I was a failure. They just pretended I didn't exist. I returned to my desk. The rain drummed lightly on the window of my 27th floor corner office. The San Francisco skyline glimmered in a foggy haze. The contract for the Bristow event was still open on my screen. Fairmont Hotel. Olivia had booked it through my concierge platform. Our assistant had flagged it for approval. I added a 30% premium for last-minute, high-profile bookings and personally authorized it. They had no idea that Leila Morgan, CEO of Morgan Properties, owner of 15 historic buildings throughout Northern California, was the same girl who once cleaned hotel rooms late into the night. They still whispered unpredictable, lost cause. Let them talk. I never wanted their approval. I owned the night. I turned toward the bookshelf and pulled out a small ebony frame tucked behind my business books. Inside was a worn plastic badge. Lila Housekeeping, Grand Pacific Hotel, San Francisco, 2013. I hadn't seen it in years, but that night I set it front and center on my desk as a reminder why I said yes to myself when everyone else said no. My mother used to say there are two types of people in this world, those who inherit names and those who carry legacies. She'd say it softly after dinner, when the wine had loosened her tongue. We were expected to nod along as if every word he said was law. I was 11 the first time I realized the role I was meant to play, not the name but the burden. By the time I was 24, they'd planned for me to step into Morgan Capital as a junior associate. There was already an office with my name on the door. Lila Morgan, Corporate Strategy. It lasted less than a year. Not because I failed, but because I asked the wrong questions. Questions about layoffs nobody explained, about the outsourcing of janitorial staff, about a retirement fund that disappeared for longtime employees. "You're thinking too small," my father barked from behind his polished oak desk. "You lack vision." "No," I said. "I just want to know what people carry." That was the last real conversation we had. From then on, our relationship became a quiet distance. Birthdays ignored, texts left unread. I enrolled at San Francisco State University's Hospitality Management program. Graduated top of my class. Not a single family member showed up. A year later, I was cleaning rooms at a rundown motel near Market Street. 10 rooms per shift. Towels that smelled like bleach mixed with damp linen. But it was honest. I built it from the ground up. No handouts. That's when Olivia sent me the wedding photo from her reception. Everyone was radiant. Tailored suits, sparkling champagne, smiling faces. I wasn't in the picture. But I remember that night clearly. I sat near the kitchen, at a table with a dishwasher on break, and a DJ who packed up early. Olivia said it was because I looked more comfortable there. 2 days later, a family group chat screenshot arrived in my inbox. Photo of my old housekeeping badge, captioned, "She wanted to clean rooms. Guess she got what she wished for." They laughed. No one spoke up. Not even Aunt Marlene. The aunt who once slipped me lemon drops and whispered, "You don't have to be like the rest of them." That day I learned. Erasure isn't always loud or angry. Sometimes it's silence. You get cropped out of enough photos, left off enough messages, seated far from the head of the table, and eventually you begin to wonder if you were ever really there at all. So I let go. I stopped waiting for them to notice me and started building something that no one could ignore. I left San Francisco with a single duffel bag, an old laptop, and just enough savings to last 3 months. There was no master plan, just a desperate need for silence, somewhere where my last name didn't matter and no one cared about the family I came from. I rented a small attic room in a weathered farmhouse in Woodstock, Vermont. It was run by an elderly couple, May and Frank, who paid me in cash to handle bookings, change linens, and manage late arrivals. They gave me room 9, low, slanted ceiling with a skylight that framed the stars, a single bed. I loved it. That's where true solitude began. Not the business, but the idea. In a battered spiral notebook, I scribbled questions. Why did some guests return while others vanished? What made a stranger feel seen safe in a place they'd never known? I observed. I experimented. A buzzing lamp, a crooked bench, a confusing sign. I fixed everything without a budget, only care. Soon guests started asking for Leela, not Miss Morgan. It's Lila. When May and Frank decided to retire, I showed up with spreadsheets, market research, and a vision. I made an offer. They accepted. I renamed it Maple House, my first property. My first real win. 5 rooms, no employees, just me. I poured my heart into it, scrubbing every floorboard, replacing musty curtains with linen panels, painting walls in soft shades of sage and cream. On every nightstand, I left a handwritten card. You're here now, you can rest. Guests remembered that line. I didn't hire a PR firm. I didn't need one. Word of mouth did what no ad campaign could. Guests told friends. Stories spread. Stories brought attention. Attention brought support. Not millions, not overnight, but enough. Within 5 years, I opened a second property, Maple Ridge. Then a third, Maple Harbor. Each smaller than the big resorts, yet quietly outperforming them. I hired former housekeepers as site managers, gave them titles, respect, and fair wages. No stiff uniforms, just real work with dignity. If you believe in quiet strength and the power of starting over, subscribe now, because the journey of Maple House is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what comes next. No fake smiles, no empty greetings, just people who understood what service truly meant, with pride, never submission. By the time I was 31, Maple House had quietly grown into its own respected brand. Understated luxury, thoughtful care. No velvet ropes, no marble fountains, just genuine dignity, done right. Still, I never put my name on any of it. The properties were listed under MP Morgan Holdings. Most assumed the CEO was a man. That suited me perfectly. I wasn't hiding, I was protecting what I'd built. The quiet gave me the space to create something they could never break down. Behind my desk, nestled between fabric samples and vendor catalogs, I kept my old plastic badge. Lila. Housekeeping. Faded, scratched, cracked right down the center. I wore it long past the time it should have been replaced, framed it. Simple black frame, no glass, not hung on any wall. Not for show, just for me. Some nights, after endless spreadsheets and signatures, I held it. Not to relive the pain, but to remember the foundation. I didn't build Maple House to prove a point. I built it to belong. They chose Maple Harbor for the family reunion, one of the most exclusive boutique hotels in Vermont. They had no clue. Maple Harbor was booked through the corporate portal. Olivia bragged in the family chat about pulling strings to secure the coveted venue. "We're so lucky," she said. The front desk manager told her the owner was very private, but once they saw the family name, they fast-tracked everything. They weren't wrong. I expedited it myself, upgraded their service, doubled the staff, imported fresh flowers, and personally approved the linen color scheme. Digitally, of course. If you felt that quiet moment of triumph with me, don't forget to subscribe. The next chapter is when they finally realize whose foundation they've been standing on. Of course, I hadn't signed a document in years. Silence protects best when you leave no fingerprints. The reservation listed the host as S. Bristow, booked through Morgan Hospitality's elite tier. The irony was sharp enough to cut glass. He assigned our guest relations manager, Hannah, to oversee the account, smart, steady, and blissfully unaware of family drama. To Hannah, Sophie was just another overly involved client, obsessed with spreadsheets and flower arrangements. 1 week before the reunion, Sophie requested custom floral arrangements, hydrangeas and delphiniums in blue and white. I called Hannah into my office. "Treat them kindly," I told Hannah, "but not delicately." She cocked her head, curious. "What do you mean? Don't handle them like fragile glass. Just serve exactly as they expect to be served." Hannah nodded slowly, a knowing smile creeping across her face. She understood more than I needed to say. That night, I sent a single message to Aunt Janine. "You're coming, arrive at 6:40, don't let them in early." She didn't reply, but I saw the read receipt. That was enough. For the next 6 days, sleep was a rare guest. I reviewed every detail: room layout, lighting cues, signage, menu selections. At the last moment, I made one subtle change. Usually, the guest suites featured a printed welcome note from the host family. This time, the card read, "We hope your stay reminds you where you come from and what was never truly lost. Lila." I didn't sign it fully. I didn't have to. On reunion day, I didn't enter through the grand front doors. Instead, I slipped in through the service entrance, passing trays of champagne glasses and carts laden with fresh linens. Just like I used to. There's something sacred about stepping through the back door to reach the heart of the house. It keeps you grounded. I wore navy, no jewelry, hair pinned neatly. Nothing screamed for attention. The room did that for me. At 6:45 p.m., they arrived. First in pairs, then small clusters, too loud laughter, too firm handshakes. All the anxious sparkle of people desperate to be noticed. And Sophie? She came in like a cruise director, waving, smiling, completely unaware she was stepping into my house. My father arrived 10 minutes later, flanked by 2 unfamiliar men I recognized immediately. Finance types. Polished shoes. Sleep watches. The kind of men who build empires with spreadsheets but forget the names of the janitors. I watched from a small monitor tucked just beyond the kitchen hallway, hidden but present. No one missed me. That was the beauty of it. I had been erased from their story so long ago that no one looked for me anymore. But that was about to change. At exactly 7:15, the ballroom lights dimmed just enough to hush the chatter, just enough to spark curiosity. Then came the sound. 3 soft chimes, slow and deliberate. Sophie was mid-sentence explaining the custom glassware when our guest services manager, Everett, approached her with his usual calm professionalism and a clipboard in hand. "Miss Bristow," he said quietly, "the owner has requested we begin the welcome presentation now." Sophie blinked, confused. "The owner? Oh, I don't think that's necessary. We've already thanked the staff, and I've been coordinating with your office for weeks. The owner doesn't usually do these things." Everett didn't argue. He simply turned toward the stage. The screen lit up. Soft navy background, clean serif font, white and crisp but impossible to ignore. Maple Harbor. Founded by Lila Morgan. Chief Executive Officer, MP Morgan Holdings. The room chilled. Sophie's flute slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. My father's jaw tightened, but no words came. From the back, a whisper floated. "Wait, what?" I stepped onto the landing above the ballroom. Heels clicking softly, hair pinned back. Navy dress, poised and composed. I looked exactly like the woman they claimed I'd never become. "Good evening," I said, voice steady and calm. "I know most of you didn't expect to see me here tonight." Pause. A nervous chuckle. One table tried to laugh. "You didn't invite me after all. I said, letting the words hang. But I thought it was time someone welcomed you properly, to Maple Harbor. I let my eyes sweep the crowd. After all, you're standing in my home. Chairs shuffled, mouths parted. Whispers rose. Sophie took a hesitant step forward, cheeks flushed, frantic. "Lila, what are you doing?" she whispered. I met her gaze, cool and unwavering. "Exactly what you taught me, making an entrance. You booked this hotel under your name," I said, voice low but clear. "You claim the owner gave you a courtesy rate because of the Bristow name. That part was true. I gave you exactly what you asked for, plus 20%. My voice didn't falter. That was the victory. For years, you spoke of me like I was some distant shame. A housekeeper, a dropout. The girl who wasted her name. You told people I disappeared. What I didn't do was disappear. They just stopped looking." I scanned the room. Faces older. Stiffer. Still painted with the brittle surprise of being caught off guard. Their discomfort wasn't new. It was just louder now. Because the story had changed. My father rose. "Lila," he said, voice rough, unreadable. "You own this place?" "I own 17, I replied evenly. "Across 4 states, I added. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. "I'm not here for applause," I said. "I came to return something." I gave a slight nod toward Hannah. She stepped forward with 2 team members, each carrying sleek black folders, one for every guest. Inside were signed event contracts. My name, Lila Morgan, their rates itemized, and a single note. "Sometimes the story you try to erase still finds its way to the wall." Near the back, Aunt Janine let out a soft, knowing laugh. An older man standing beside my father asked gently, "Why didn't you use your full name from the start?" I paused. Because I wanted to build something before anyone decided what it was supposed to be. He nodded, quiet understanding in his eyes. As I stepped away, the ballroom dimmed, not in light, but in noise. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. The VIP suite Sophie had insisted on, calling 4 times to secure, was quietly reassigned to a diplomat, a late arrival, very pregnant. Sophie's new room was still nice, of course, but it faced the alley. The same type I used to clean for $9.75 an hour. My father never came looking for me, but Aunt Janine did. She knocked on my office door after 11 p.m. I didn't invite her in. She didn't ask. She simply handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo I hadn't seen in decades. Me, maybe 8 years old, on the back porch of the old Bristow house, gripping a lemonade pitcher with both hands. My father's hand rested gently on my shoulder. I remembered that day, not for anything grand, but because minutes later I spilled the lemonade, terrified of getting scolded. No one said a word. They laughed. That was the last time I remembered feeling like I belonged. On the back, in Janine's looping script, "You were part of us." That was all. She left before I could speak. The next morning, I took the elevator to the service floor. The housekeeping team was starting their shift. A few nodded. One young woman smiled, then quickly looked away. I walked to the old supply room, now our break space. A coat rack hung near the back wall. From my bag, I pulled out the framed name tag, Lila Housekeeping. I hung it above the jackets. No plaque, no spotlight, just wood and a nail. Later that day, Sophie left a note in her room. "You didn't deserve what we did." I didn't reply. But the following spring, when the reunion invites went out, the return address read, mara.r.caldwell@elon.group. If my story resonates with you, subscribe and stay. I didn't build Maple Harbor to prove a point. I built it so people like us have a place. Comment below and tell me, what did they try to erase in you? Your voice matters, even when it starts as a whisper. If you've ever been overlooked or erased, know you're not alone. Your quiet strength matters, and every small step forward builds your future. Please subscribe and join me on this journey, because together we rise beyond what others expect. Your support means everything to me.